Yo, what's going on everybody? It's your boy Zo Ordinary, aka Just Ordinary. Before we get started, I just want to bring up what's in the background right now because some of you might be thinking, why is there gameplay in the background? This is not a gaming channel, of course. For these chapter reviews, I want to keep it more casual and I just want to talk about my initial thoughts and just, the key points of the chapter. It's not going to be like a formal, in-depth chapter analysis and chapter review because we all read the chapter. I don't need to, talk about every single piece of dialogue in the chapter, you know what I mean? So we're gonna keep it more casual and I'm just gonna have fun with it and just talk about whatever I want to talk about, really. All right, let's get into the chapter now. Chapter 1073, Buckingham Stussy. Off the bat, I want to get this out the way. 10 out of 10 chapter. Can't convince me otherwise. Beautiful setup. Let's call this a setup chapter. Beautiful setup chapter. I really thought we were gonna get Kuma's backstory this chapter, but instead we got, I wouldn't say better, but we got a bigger revelation, which we'll get to in a sec. But before that, I gotta send my condolences to all the Lucci fans out there. He took a big L today. He got no diffed by Stussy. I even gotta take him off my top 30 after this. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. He's gotta get out. I'm replacing him with Weevil. Weevil did big things this chapter. Although, we'll talk about he did get captured. He did big things. I will give him the benefit of the doubt because he wasn't even in his Zoan form and he wasn't even in his awakened form. So it's still an L, but it's not that big of an L. But it's an L enough to get him out of my top 30. After that, we then find out that Stussy can't take control of the Seraphims because she's on the same level as Rob Lucci when it comes to authority over them. But that's when we get the most anticipated matchup of the year to take place. Zoro versus S-Hawk. Now we all saw it coming. Can't kid yourself. S-Hawk wasn't gonna fight anybody else. S-Hawk wasn't gonna fight Sanji. He was fighting Zoro. And my boy Zoro did not disappoint. The look S-Hawk had, bro, he wasn't ready. He was ready against Blackbeard. He didn't care about Blackbeard. But when he clashed with Zoro, he knew this guy was the real monster. Before anyone says anything, hey, calm down. Blackbeard over Zoro. I don't have that agenda. If you have that agenda, drop it because that's a really bad take. But yeah, I really can't wait for what this holds for the future. We know Zoro's not gonna beat S-Hawk here when they fight, most likely because, which I'll get to in a bit, the Gorosei are coming. Oda, the one and only, the master of writing himself, let us know earlier in the arc that the Gorosei have the highest authority over the Seraphim, even higher than Vegapunks, which most likely means that the fight between S-Hawk and Zoro is going to continue even though Vegapunk was able to take control of the Seraphims again. But in my opinion, the Seraphims don't get beat here. Even when they go against the Straw Hats, which they most likely will, they don't get beat here because from what we know, they are still children and they still have a lot of growing to do. And I don't think Oda's gonna trash them right before they reach adulthood. So we're definitely gonna get more from them in the future and maybe even this arc when the Gorosei show up. Now we finally got my boy Weevil. Alright, Weevil, in my opinion, the failed clone of Vegapunk. And I know a lot of people aren't gonna like the idea of so many clones in One Piece, and I'm sort of with you guys on that one. I don't want Clone Wars, okay? We saw that in Naruto during the war arc. It was it was kind of mid. But I think the way Oda actually set this up is actually perfectly. Because look at Weevil, for example. Weevil sort of looks exactly like the Thriller Bark zombies. So I think Weevil is a failed clone. He was the initial trials of making a clone, and he's the byproduct of it, using Whitebeard's DNA and maybe even Stussy's DNA. But maybe not even Stussy's DNA, because we actually found out that Stussy is a scientist, and we did see her in the cover page, but we kind of assumed that this might have either been the clone Stussy or the real Stussy. But now it's confirmed that it's the real Stussy and that she was a scientist. She wasn't just there just to be there. So maybe in the eyes of Vegapunk, Weevil is a failed clone because we know how Vegapunk works. Even if it's a difference in hair color, he will consider it as a failure. But I think Stussy, on the other hand, saw Weevil as a success. Even though he does sort of lack the brain capacity to do anything by himself and really relies on Stussy herself, in her eyes, he's a success. And to her, he's a child. He's her son and the son of Whitebeard, you could say. Because I find it really odd that Stussy tells Marco to go ask Vegapunk for proof of Weevil's lineage. If you want to prove it, why would you ask Vegapunk? Why wouldn't you ask somebody else? It's just, interesting. But hey, you know who took a W this chapter? Green Bull. Finally, he defeated an opponent that, in my opinion, is very powerful and even probably as strong as a lot of first commanders. Because we know Weevil's compared to having the same strength as young Whitebeard. Which, come on, we saw the strength of old Whitebeard. Imagine young Whitebeard. Although I'm not sure if it's prime Whitebeard or like young as in like before he even became the strongest man, before he reached his peak. But either way, it's Whitebeard. It doesn't matter which Whitebeard, he's powerful. Oh, and I actually forgot to mention, something really surprising happened. So a lot of people when the spoilers came out thought that Weevil was gonna fight Marco, but it was the opposite. Weevil protected the island, Sphinx Island, which is Whitebeard's island, from the Navy. And I guess, yeah, that's how he got captured by Green Bull. But we all thought that he was going after the Whitebeard pirates, the remnants of the Whitebeard pirates, and trying to kill them and even destroy anything that involved his father. But it still seems he has that respect for his father. He doesn't actually hate his father because it looks like he just wants, or at least Stussy wants, the inheritance. Lastly, I would say the craziest part of the chapter, even though we got a lot of crazy stuff going on already, somehow there was something even better, and that was a revelation of one of the Gorosei's names, Saint J. Garcia Saturn. Keyword Saturn. There's a lot of theories going around right now, and I'm all for it. There might be a chance that there are more than 3 ancient weapons, and the Gorosei themselves actually might be ancient weapons, because 2 out of the 3 ancient weapons are named after planets, Pluton and Uranus. And now we have someone named Saturn, and he's not just anyone, he's the top authority in the world right before Imu. And it actually really makes a lot of sense if the theory is true. And this isn't my theory, I'm not claiming this to be my theory, I just wanted to share it with you guys. But if the theory is true that the Gorosei are actually ancient weapons themselves, it makes so much sense on why the world government has been able to stay in power for so long. But that's also assuming that these Gorosei are immortal or close to immortal. They can live for very long. Now, in my opinion, you can disagree, but the Navy doesn't seem to be a force strong enough to take control of the world. Now, yes, of course, they have the fleet admirals, they have the 3 admirals, 5 admirals, however many admirals they have at the time, they have them. And these are powerful characters. But we saw what one Yonko crew could do to Navy headquarters. It was practically completely destroyed, and they had to move it closer to Marijua in the Red Line. So why didn't pirates like Roger or Zebek go after Marijua? Why were they only worried about the Navy? But I think that's where God Valley comes in. I think God Valley actually plays a much bigger role than we think. If it's true that the Gorosei are what we think they are, it makes so much sense now why God Valley has completely disappeared and why it's not known anywhere around the world. It's only known by those who were there. In my opinion, the Gorosei might have been there, not just any celestial dragons. It could have been Imu that destroyed the island as well, of course. But what if it was a Gorosei? That would completely change the game. It would change the story so much. What we can expect from them. I think the beauty about Oda's writing is that whenever he reveals something, we end up having more questions. And it does the opposite of actually answering us. It gives us one answer, but then leaves the door open for many more interpretations, many more questions. And that's what I really like about One Piece. And I think that's what Oda did this chapter by revealing the Gorosei's name. And there's a reason why Oda's been hiding their names. Oda doesn't do things for no reason. It took us 1,073 chapters to get to this point. It's sort of like Devil Fruits. It took us like 1,060, 1,070 chapters to find out the bare minimum information. So whatever comes out of this is going to be game changing, and I'm all for it. I'm here. But anyways, that's my chapter discussion review video, I guess. Let me know what you guys think, if you guys like the format or not. If you don't, I'll completely scrap it and I'll find something else. But if you do, hey, I appreciate it. I really, I do enjoy playing video games, so I'm not gonna lie, this actually makes it very convenient, and at the same time it makes, I guess, in a way, if it makes it more entertaining for you guys, it's good for you guys too. So let me know, make sure to like, subscribe, and peace out.